I was halfway up the back stairs with a coffee I didn't need when I stepped into my son's doorway and froze. Helen sat on the edge of the bed, clutching a tiny white onesie, the tag still on, and the kind of sob that makes a room hold its breath spilled into the quiet nursery. You know what I mean. The sound that tells you something in someone's life just gave way. Afternoon light slid through the linen curtains, toy blocks were lined like a parade on the rug, and there she was, the strongest person I know, shaking. I said her name softly. Helen. And she looked up like lifting her head cost more than she had. It was supposed to be his going home outfit, she said, voice frayed to threads. My heart stuttered. I glanced at the crib, at the little books we read at nap, and I understood just enough to be scared of the rest. I pulled the blue chair closer and told her I wasn't leaving, not unless she asked. She took a breath that shivered all the way through and said the words that emptied the air from my lungs. 2 months ago, I had a baby. He lived 8 days. She told it the way you walk barefoot across a floor you know has glass in it. Slow, careful, exact. She'd had a quiet pregnancy, mostly the nausea she blamed on our kitchen coffee extra shifts, because she said her car needed work, when really she was sanding a used crib to bright white, and hand-stitching a felt mobile with moons and tiny stars. The father Maurice didn't take the news like a man. He told her to deal with it. Changed his number, vanished to another zip code. Like responsibility was a virus, yeah, that happened. Then the birth, her face, when she remembered it, went bright and wet at the same time his cry was strong. He latched like he already knew what to do for 3 hours. She was the happiest person in the world until a nurse walked in for routine tests and walked out with everything. The doctor sat and said words no one expects to hear next to a newborn. Critical heart defect. The left side hadn't developed right. There are surgeries, there are risks, there is no guarantee, and they moved him before dawn to the children's hospital. The surgeon explained a plan that sounded like trying to rewire a thunderstorm while it's still raging. But she signed because what else do you do when a life you love is counting on your signature? The operation took most of the day, it worked, and then it didn't, and then it did again, a seesaw of numbers. Only machines and mothers understand. On day 3, they let her hold him. Wires, tape, beeps, all of it. And he opened his eyes and looked at her, like he'd been listening all pregnancy and finally found the face to match the voice. She held that look with both hands, and then on day 8 at 3 a.m., the alarms at 5:12. The nurse said, hold him at 5:15, he was gone. When she said that time out loud, the clock on the wall ticked like it was agreeing. I asked why she hadn't told me, why she hadn't taken time, why she was here at all. She pressed the onesie to her chest and said, caring for my boy was the only thing that got her out of bed, sometimes for 10 whole minutes. She could pretend her baby was still here, but today was exactly 2 months, and her mind refused to pretend. I told her to tell me how to help, and she said, some losses don't get fixed. We only learn how to hold them without cutting ourselves every time. Then she said the thing that felt like a floor dropping. I need to leave, not dramatic, not tonight, but soon. My sister Lucy in Phoenix owns a salon. She'll teach me to cut hair. I can't heal inside these rooms. Every doorway is a mirror I can't look into. She swallowed and asked for one kindness, to say goodbye to my son the right way, vanish, but speak to him like a child who deserves the truth. Of course, I said, we'll do it together. I thought we'd reached the worst, we hadn't. She opened Theo's dresser, lifted a white envelope I'd never seen, no return address. A slanted hand on the front. It was from Maurice. He'd heard he was sorry. He'd talked to nurses. He wanted to help her heal by trying again. Have another child honor the one they lost. The way she said, "Have another child," made me feel like the air got thin. "A child is not a bandage," she said, and I nodded, because there are sentences that don't ask for debate. But she stared at the carpet and whispered the part. I didn't expect. Part of me wants to believe he changed. He's the only other person who knows the exact shape of this empty space, hope and hurt loud at the same time. I'm a man who loves the plan, but this wasn't a problem to solve. It was a person to sit beside, so I offered the only thing that felt right. Tomorrow morning, we give your son a place in the world. A real one. We speak his name out loud, and we don't whisper. The olive tree near the back fence had never looked sacred to me, but that night, I walked the kitchen in circles and kept looking at that door like outside was a chapel. I also texted a friend on the hospital board, because action is how my nerves pace. How do we start a tiny fund for NICU families who can't afford the bus or a motel bed? Keep it quiet, not because kindness needs secrecy, but because dignity deserves it. Morning came clean. My boy toddled out in pajamas with a crayon drawing of a sun too big for paper. Helen followed, carrying a small wooden box like it might fly away. "Can we plant my kid?" asked, and I told him we can make a place. He looked satisfied, like the mayor had signed off. Helen knelt, opened the box, folded the white onesie inside, set a thin hospital bracelet, and a printed photo where a fierce little face turned toward the camera with tape on his cheek and eyes half open. She held a yellow sleeper, the one with the duck, kissed it, and laid it gentle. I asked his name, and she said it like stepping onto a ledge and finding her foot on stone. Gabriel. "God is my strength." We both set it back so it couldn't run. My boy slid his drawing on top and patted it twice. "For baby," he said. "For Gabriel," she echoed, and the wind agreed by moving only the olive leaves. We covered the box with soil, not dramatic, just precise, which is how most good things arrive at my house. Inside the nursery, she took my son into her lap and said, "I have to take a long trip to see my sister. I won't be here at nap for a while." Then she tapped her chest. "I'll carry you right here." He pressed his palm, the same place, tested the idea, and nodded. "If you miss me, go to the tree and say hi. Gabriel, tell Helen I'm okay. He's a fast messenger." "Fast," my boy said. Like that settled the physics of grief. At the kitchen table, she wrote Maurice back, steady hand, Maurice. "I believe you are sorry. I also believe my son does not need to be replaced, to be honored. A child is not a bandage. If you want to honor him, show up for the living. Give blood. Pay a mom's bus fare. Sit with a father at 3 a.m. Do it whether or not I ever call for now. I'm choosing to heal somewhere you cannot follow. If there's anything to say in the future, I'll be the one to write." She signed with a mother's name and slid the letter under the wooden box like a weight. And I watched her shoulders drop a fraction. That's how boundaries look when they're brand new. She spent the afternoon writing out Theo's small rituals. 2 pats after the bottle hum, the off-key lullaby his mom used to sing. The blue book goes last, or he'll keep emptying the shelf like it's his calling. Then she lined tiny socks in pairs, because order is a kind of mercy for certain brains, mine and hers. Lucy called from Phoenix and put the phone on speaker. They laughed about a client who always wants bangs and always regrets it. About a ridiculous lamp shaped like a pineapple that was staying purely because it made them laugh. Rent sounded survivable. Hope sounded like a human voice doing ordinary things. At sunrise, she met me at the gate with a canvas backpack. I offered tickets. Deposit all the usual ways men like me try to help. "Keep it for the fund," she said, "for families like mine." "Quiet, please. Send me the first receipt, not as proof, as company." She squeezed my hand once, not tentative, just human. "Thank you for giving him a place," she said. "This isn't my house," I told her. "But it is a house where your son has a name, and that is more than most places." The bus sighed. She pressed her palm to the glass when the olive tree slid by, and my kid waved like a tiny diplomat and then asked for a snack because toddlers are geniuses at saving adults from drowning in their own moments. That afternoon, he brought a blue toy car to the little mound and said, "Hi, Gabriel," like it was the most obvious thing in the world. The sun warmed the soil, and I stood there with my hands in my pockets, thinking about how love doesn't leave. It just changes address. Weeks later, a postcard showed up a saguaro under a loud blue sky. "Here, Mr. Richard and my favorite boy." I learned to do a perfect fade. I can stand 8 hours and still eat dinner. I bought a thrifted moon lamp that paints the ceiling silver, and I tell Gabriel good night. There, if you go to the tree, tell him I'm okay, and that the desert has its own kind of ocean. Love, Helen. In the corner, she drew a magnolia bloom with 5 quick lines. I stuck it to the fridge with a blue magnet and took my son to the yard and read it out loud, and he clapped at the moon part and then demanded pancakes for dinner, and we said yes, because it felt like a good night to say yes. Now here's the part that might divide us. Last week, a number I didn't know called, and the voicemail was a man's voice, careful, too smooth, saying he was in town and wanted to talk to Helen. Said he had rights. I listened, wrote the number on a sticky note, texted it to Helen with, "Do you want me to block this for you?" And she wrote back in 60 seconds, "Block it, and thank you." So I did not, as her boss. She's not my employee anymore. But as the person who watched her build a boundary and decided to guard it like a door. Maybe you think I should have called him back. Maybe you believe in second chances, the way you believe in weather changing. If you wait it out, maybe your life taught you the opposite. You know what I mean? Some of us forgive to be free. Some of us hold a line to stay alive. For me, the only thing I'm sure of is this. Justice isn't always a courtroom. Sometimes it's a bus ticket. Sometimes it's a clean bed near a NICU. Sometimes it's a tree in the corner of a yard where a name lives out loud. If you're still with me, drop a comment and tell me what you think is forgiveness for the person who hurt you, or for the person you're becoming. Is a parent, the one who shares DNA, or the one who shows up at 3 a.m. with warm coffee and gas money? Should I have picked up that call, or was blocking it? The right kind of mercy. Tell me where you're watching from, say. Gabriel's name if you want. And if this story moved, you consider helping a NICU family near you, a ride, a meal, a motel room, because sometimes the smallest favor is the only bridge love needs to make it through the night.